Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. This one's going to be about editing, specifically about one particular method that, at least for me, has made the biggest difference with regards to my workflow in editing, as well as saving time, saving headaches, and actually getting a better result in the end. And that's exactly what I'll be sharing with you today. In editing, there are a few practices which I think are so important they should be essential as part of everyone's workflow. The first one, for example, right, is to baseline your image, to make sure that before you actually start any editing, your photo is properly exposed, or at least the white balance is correct. Because if you start with a wrong baseline, you'll just end up going in completely the wrong direction. And this particular method is kind of the same, and that is to apply your biggest, most distractive, most sort of wow in your face effect that has the biggest impact on the image first, and then do everything else. Now, before I go any further, let me explain this with an analogy which I think you'll understand. So, three things: a coffee mug, an apple, and some water. I don't have any water in here, but you can imagine, right? This represents your photo, the water represents all of the editing, and the apple represents your big edit or the direction in which you're taking your photo. If you take your photo and then you do all the little edits first, effectively filling it up with water, and then you decide, you know what, I want to apply this color grade, or I want to exaggerate that sunlight that's coming from the top left. That's your apple. Well, you can't put that in a cup now without the water spilling out everywhere and then you having to clean up all the mess that has come out because you tried to force this into a cup that's already full. However, if you take the apple and you put it in an empty cup first, then all you have to do is just fill in a little bit of the water to fill in the gaps, and you have no mess, and it's much quicker and much easier. And let me just put this down. And the same applies to your editing. So if you take your photo and you do your biggest effect first, all you then got to do is effectively sell that effect by doing all of the editing around that effect to make that effect fit the image. Whereas on the other hand, if you've already done all of your editing and then you slap on the effect, then you're going to have to either backtrack a little bit to make it work, or you're going to have to go through the settings again and change them and adapt them to make that work, effectively doubling your work. So what do I mean by these big effects, right? It could be something as simple as applying a preset. If you have a preset pack, for example, there's no point you editing the photo and then applying the preset, because that's just going to potentially clash with what you've done. Another example is a very heavy color grade or a black and white conversion. I can guarantee if you edit your photo in color and then you go, oh, let me make it black and white, you're going to have to restart again. And with a heavy color grade, maybe if you, let's say, do a very heavy, let's say, blue and red color grade, right, you're going to have to potentially adjust the exposure or adjust the tone or adjust a few other things to make that color grade work. Because maybe the only way for that color grade to work is to have the image overexposed a little bit or underexposed. Whereas if you do those effects after, you're going to have a harder time to then undoing everything and then kind of redoing it. Another example could be something that I do quite a lot personally, is using radial filters and graduated filters to exaggerate sources of light or to exaggerate shadows in an image. I would always do them first. I will look at an image. If I think, yeah, this is exactly where I want the light to come, I will do the radial filter, I'll do my exposure, I'll do my contrast, I'll do whatever I've got to do to, let's say, exaggerate that source of light. And then, obviously, the image will look a bit ridiculous, but then when I exit, then I will adjust the rest of the image with regards to global exposure, global shadows, global highlights, to make that effect look a lot more natural and to make it fit with the image much better. Okay, I think I've been waffling again. So let's go on the iPad and I'll show you some examples. So we're going to have two examples here. The first one is a more typical street shot. You've seen me post this the other day. This was taken just near Bank, just outside One Poultry, and I saw this old guy standing there and flagging the bus down, and he held his arm up for quite a while, which was gave me loads of time to get it. I wish the bus was a bit closer, and I wish that you didn't have, like, there was a guy crossing the road at the same time, And you can see his feet are just by that elbow. If I was a bit extra, I could Photoshop it out, but I just couldn't really be bothered. Also, if that taxi on the other side of the guy's elbow was not there, that would probably be quite cool as well. But anyway, that's my end result with regards to the edit. So if we reset the image and go to all, that's basically where we started. So very quickly, I can say that the white balance is cool, the exposure is cool. I'm going to quickly straighten this out and then just go into the geometry, auto, and basically we're nearly there. So just on the edge here, just hide a bit of that, like so, bring that in a little bit. Okay, so for the purpose of this, I am happy with this edit. Now let's assume overall I'm happy, and let's just say I just quickly apply one of my presets. This particular one, let's just say soft warm, okay, just for now, right? And now I want to say the big edit I want to do with this particular photo is I want to exaggerate the light that's just coming from the sky and just make this image look a little bit more 3D than it is. So let's assume I would have gone through this and I would have adjusted my image and like, yeah, I'm happy with that. That's cool, that's cool. Color profile, classic chrome here works quite well. And then I want to do my big edit. So for that, I will do this, and I'll probably do something like that. Drop the feather, and then increase, reduce, color, slight boost, too much. Okay. And then I will drop that down to about right. However, now the rest of the image is a bit dark, so I need to then kind of work around the rest of the image to just effectively sell that effect, because otherwise it's a little bit too dark. So maybe do something like that. Okay. Okay, so there is the before and the after. However, this time round, if I reset the adjustments, right, rather than doing that, I'm not going to bother straightening it, but rather than doing that, what we can do is, again, if I apply one of my presets, because that's always my starting point, okay, before touching anything else, the first thing I do is I'll do that effect. And now, the main difference, oops, messed that one up, didn't I? So, exposure, highlights, contrast, and a bit of color. Now, I can then spend the rest of the time working to sell that effect rather than undoing some of the edits I've already done. Now, this can obviously work a lot easier if you're not applying a preset first, or sorry, a lot more obvious to show if you're not applying a preset first. But basically, do your biggest effect first, and then after that, you can just tweak the small settings and do it that way. I mean, if you do it the first way, technically, it's not wrong because you can still make it work. However, you're just sort of adding a bit more work to the whole thing. So it's just something to keep in mind just to save a little bit of time. So another example, if we go to this picture, right? This is the original. If I just reset that to everything, that's where we started. If I just crop that in a bit, okay? So let's just say if I go to if I go to my presets and just, again, for the purpose of this, let's just say muted film, right? Then I know what changes I want to make to this, but before I do, if I then apply my big edit, which for this is just exaggerating that source of light, like so, like so, like so, okay. Now, I can work on the image as a whole with that source of light as being a part of the image. And all I'm going to do, for example, so there's way too much fade, so delete that, reduce that, like so. Definitely the highlights need to come down a bit, like so. Shadows, maybe a touch up, whites. No, about there's okay. And I mean, to be honest with you, I'm quite happy with this as it is. Now, if we reset this again, okay, and then this time, let's just go back to my preset. This time, we'll actually edit the image before applying the big effect. And for this, let's say, okay, get rid of this, less fade, and then let's just say highlights. Image is a bit too dark, so we need to brighten it up, like so. Shadows up a little bit, blacks up a little bit, and now we decide, oh, let's put the big effect on, like so. All of a sudden, as you can see, even though it's technically working, we now have to go back and undo some of these things that we've done because it's a bit too bright. And again, you could still get to the end result. You could still get to the same end result. It's just, it's going to take you extra steps and having to undo some of the things that you've done in order to get there, which will in turn, well, it'll take you more time to do so, but also you will just look at an image in a different way. Whereas the first way, you're looking at the image and that big effect as a whole. This way, you are looking at them as two different things, and you're almost trying to backtrack to sell that effect. So in my opinion, I think you will get a better quality edit, and certainly an edit that you're happier with if you apply that big effect first, and then do all the little adjustments to kind of sell that big effect as part of the whole photo. Okay, that's about it for this one. Now, I'm quite interested to hear your thoughts if you try this out. I mean, I hope it works for you. If it does, fantastic. If it doesn't, fantastic. Editing is not black and white. There are many different ways to do it. But if you have tried it and you do have some feedback on this approach, please comment down below, because myself and everyone else here would be interested to hear in your feedback. That's all from me for now. I hope you have a good day. And yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in a bit. Bye.